Shalom, everyone. This is Rabbi Stephen Leon, the founder and rabbi of the Anusim Center and Synagogue, and this is our podcast, The Secret Jews of the Southwest. And one of the important parts of the Secret Jews of the Southwest is music. Sephardic music, even Ashkenazic music, Ladino music, and we're very privileged today to have with us Dr. Larry Lesser, UTEP professor of math education, who has written several papers on the connection of math and Judaism, and he has received awards for this, and he released an original Jewish album of Jewish folklore, and we're very privileged to have him here, and I would like to invite him to talk about a particular song that has been associated with the Secret Jews of the Southwest for many, many years. Larry, could you tell us a little bit about your song and then play for us Lights Lead Home?
Be honored to. Thank you for having me on the podcast, Rabbi Leon. So I guess I see this as one of my album's greatest lesser hits. It's a special song to me for many reasons, because as a songwriter, sometimes the most cool songs are those that you feel drawn to write about before you even fully know why. And I learned so much in the process of coming to write this. So, crypto Jews were not on my radar at all before I moved to El Paso 2 decades ago, but by being active in your congregation and meeting many of the people there, I came to learn about their stories. I started attending the Sephardic Anusim conferences that you put on, and at one point in 2007, I was moved to write sort of a composite song of their experiences because I was just so touched by, it was just a songwriter's dream to write about. I mean, this idea that, someone would come across something that they didn't understand, some ritual, some practice, and then that would just unlock this huge door to this huge past, which then became their present and their future. And it was just so beautiful to write that. And interestingly, because some people would ask me, well, you're not a crypto Jew, so what about this resonated so deeply for you? And there are a number of possible answers, I think. Again, I saw a lot of beauty in the power of ritual to unlock something that big, regardless of what the ritual was. So to me, that made it a very universal experience. The Judaism I practice now is not the same as the Judaism that I grew up with. And so the idea of coming into a new understanding, that resonated also with me. And just the sheer courage of finding one's path, it was just so beautiful and so moving. And so I wrote the song in 2007. You had me use it to open the first of a dozen of those conferences. And we put the song third on the album because it's the first ballad, because it just has such richness. And the world beyond the Southwest needs to know about this story as well. And so I'm really glad I put it on there. Bill Radcliffe plays a wonderful, joyous electric guitar interspersed with my Spanish guitar. So there's sort of the past and the present, even in the arrangement of the song on the album. He co-produced the whole album also with me. It's called Sparks. Viewers or listeners can check it out at larrylesser.com/sparks. And it's one of my favorite songs of all time for all those reasons.
That's great. I'm so glad that you wrote that.
Thank you. And I still remember that first time I played it. It was part of opening a Friday night service before the conference began. And people actually applauded, which is not something that usually happens in a service. So I guess I knew that I had struck a chord, no pun intended.
There are always puns intended with you, Larry.
This is true. I mean, when I tell people about crypto Jews, people always try to make a joke about it, like, oh, is this like some kind of invisible currency or something? And and I tell them, well, there's nothing secret or invisible about the suffering they went through. And actually, cryptocurrency even has connections with the far right, because they use it a lot to move money around anonymously so that their activities can't be traced. And so the anti-Semitism that has come against Jews, including crypto Jews, has often come from that place. Now we're seeing some from the left as well these days. But so anyway, it's an interesting story. So should I go ahead and play it?
Would you please?
I'd be honored. And it's been very special to see that it's appeared in Halapid, which is the periodical of the Society for Crypto-Judaic Studies, and you put it in your national resource guide that you compiled with Rabbi Mejia, and getting to play it at events where I can see people's faces and they sing along with me on the chorus. So those of you watching now at home, feel free to sing along with me. It's called Lights Lead Home. Rosa Mendez wonders why Her abuela drew the blinds, lit 2 candles and closed her eyes on Friday nights. Lights lead home, lights lead home, over ocean of soul. Here in this new world land, Rosa starts to understand traditions hidden, lost or banned since Ferdinand. Lights lead home, lights lead home, over ocean of soul. It's like she found an ancient key that opened doors of memory. Finally safe now to see sparks redeem. Lights lead home, lights lead home, over ocean of soul. Lights lead home, welcome home, over ocean of soul. Sobre el alma del mar.
Wow, thank you so much. You know, when Larry would begin our service and our Anusim conferences that we had for many years, it was a very special moment. It put all of us in the mood to connect. And this is really all about connection, as Larry has, to connect with this particular secret. The secret Jews of the Southwest is one of the biggest secrets in the Jewish world and in the non-Jewish world.
It's lesser known.
It is lesser known. I told you the puns will never stop. So one other thing I did want to, just to give an example of what Larry is talking about, some of the people that are listening to this podcast might be the first time, and I just wanted them to understand that the crypto-Jews, or in Hebrew as we call them, the Bnai Anusim, the children of those who were forced to do something against their will, have been carrying on Jewish traditions for more than 500 years, even though they have been observing Christianity. And one of the best examples of that, and one of the most common, are people who observe their Sabbath on Sunday, because that is the day that Christianity changed from Saturday to Sunday as the Sabbath. And yet, on Friday night, in a dark room of the house, usually, they have been lighting candles and not even knowing why. And now many of those have been curious about that background and have actually, many of them have returned to the Jewish faith, and some of them have just become stronger in their connection to Judaism and to Israel as well. And I have a question, Larry. Do you know if you have any personal background that has something to do with maybe what has inspired you?
You know, it's funny you ask that, because just like a year ago, well into this journey with the music, my cousin Lainey shared that family on my mother's side may have descended through Bnai Anusim through Catalonia. And so we're still looking into this. So this song may end up taking on yet another level of meaning for me.
Well, you know, that's really very interesting. I have a similar story because, and I've told this before, but I just want to reiterate it. In my own personal life, why did I become so involved in this? It started when I did move to El Paso 38 years ago, but something else had happened in my personal life where my grandfather who was an Ashkenazic Jew from Poland, but then his last name was Leon, but actually the Sephardic or Spanish way of pronouncing that is Leon. And at my own bar mitzvah revealed to me that actually we are Sephardic Jews and that he was named Moshe Leon. Morris was the English that they gave him when he came to Ellis Island. And in talking to his grandfather, there was a secret within our own family that we go all the way back many, many generations to one of the founders, a Sephardic founder of Kabbalah, Moshe de Leon, a 13th century rabbi who wrote the Zohar. So, Larry, both you and I are learning secrets in our own families. Now, I understand also that you made a video, I've seen the video of this particular song, and it's very inspiring. Could you tell us just a little bit about that background of that video, and if people want to see it, if it's available?
Sure. I've only had a few of my songs turned into videos, and this by far was my favorite. Our mutual friend Blanca Carrasco, I was talking with her one day and she was telling me about her son Joel, or Joel is how she pronounces it. He was a digital media, or is a digital media major at UTEP, and she was showing me some of his photography, some of his work, and I just sort of made a casual comment of, I bet he could do a really nice video of my song Light Sleet Home. Little did I know that really started a conversation, and with the Society for Crypto-Judaic Studies conference coming up and an exhibit at Los Portales Museum coming up, we actually decided let's give it a shot. And we did this during the summer of 2023. Blanca, Joel, and I had conversations about what might go into it. And then Joel just took it and ran with it and created this amazing, I mean, songwriters like to think of songs as 3-minute movies, literally, where you tell a story and with evocative details and images. And the video is literally 3 minutes. It's basically the length of the song. But the images he brings in historical clothing from the Paso Museum Trail Association, and then the room ambiance of the Bodega Loya, the 100-year-old farm in Socorro, and the on-screen talent of Alex Sosa and her beautiful daughter Shalom and Shira were just amazing. And they just brought the story to life in a whole nother way. And I could not be more happy with how that turned out. As far as where people can access it, I actually set up a little simple page, larrylesser.com/crypto. And if you go to that page, you will find a link to be able to watch the video. You'll find a link to listen to the song, some other links as well related to this. So I just wanted to have sort of all the crypto-related work I've done kind of in one easy place with an easy URL to give people. So that's what it is, larrylesser.com/crypto. So I encourage people to check out the video and give us your feedback, because it's really a special one.
Yeah.
And its public debut was the August 2023 Society for Crypto-Judaic Studies Conference. We gave it a public debut there, and it was well received.
Let me just say a few more words about what Larry was telling us about, because you may not know. There is a wonderful organization called the Society for Crypto-Judaic Studies, and they do a lot of the academic portion of the crypto-Jewish story, bringing in professors, other speakers, music like Larry's and others, films, lectures, etc., etc. And this year, in August, they had a wonderful conference, the Society for Crypto-Judaic Studies. You could look up their website as well and learn about some of these and get some more additional information besides all of the spiritual work that mostly I'm involved in with the Anusim Center and Synagogue. And by the way, Larry, myself, and Bill Radcliffe, who we mentioned before, actually performed Larry's songs, some of Bill's repertoire of Hebrew songs, and some Ladino songs that I offered. And that was actually the conclusion of the conference, and it concluded on a very...
People got up and danced. It was so joyous.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. Larry, do you have some other songs that connect to the Bnai Anusim, and could you share those with us and tell us a little bit about them?
Sure. So I did 2 other songs at the conference, as you mentioned. So one of them is called Temples, and it goes back to, it's sort of a Tisha B'Av song on one level, and of course your listeners probably know about the resolution that you passed in 2009, was it?
Yes.
With the conservative movement, so that Tisha B'Av would be a vehicle for memorializing the Spanish Inquisition, and that's been adopted by many congregations around the country, and a very powerful thing. And so I've been part of some of those services when you would lead those. And so For those who don't know, Tisha B'Av is sort of like the saddest day of the year in Judaism. It's so many calamities throughout history have occurred on that day. The first one goes back to chapter 14 of the book of Numbers. I'll let you look that up later if you like. And going through history, the destruction of the first temple by the Babylonians and the destruction of the second temple by the Romans and expulsion of Jews from England and the Nazis approving the final solution and Jews being deported from the Warsaw Ghetto started on that day. And then, of course, most relevant to the topic today is the Alhambra Decree of 1492 required Jews to be expelled from Spain just 2 days before Tisha B'Av. And so all these things just have happened on this day. And of course, sadly, Jews, including crypto-Jews, still face a lot of ignorant prejudice and hate, which can be viewed as the kind of baseless hatred that is said to have caused the fall of the Second Temple. And so that inspired my song, Temples. As we offered up our service, raising up our hands, the Romans laid siege, took our treasures to their land. Our golden lamp and vessels, the table that held our bread, before they burned down our temple to the ground, I said with dread, baseless hate, baseless hate, baseless hate will devastate. All the years of exile we went through have not taught us how to treat a fellow Jew. They may not share our passions or wear what we wear. Is that why we don't try to share our prayer? Baseless hate, baseless hate, baseless hate will devastate. Desecrate. Now we've many temples, great halls with donors' names, where some slander those who don't look the same. And I've been shamed for how I learn or pray. They call me heretic or fanatic as they relay. Baseless hate, baseless hate, baseless hate will devastate. Beyond the stones, can we atone?
I have to really thank you for that particular song, because I have to tell you, since October the 7th, this concept of baseless hate has reminded me, because sometimes we take our Judaism for granted and the state of Israel for granted, has reminded me that throughout our history, not only during the time of the Spanish Inquisition, that I really could say that the only cause of anti-Semitism is baseless hate. There's no logic behind it. You go back to Egypt, the fact that God enslaved a people, one of whom, a man by the name of Joseph, who saved their lives from a famine, and then a new Pharaoh comes along, and he saved the Egyptians from this famine, the only country that was able to survive because he told them about what God revealed to him. And we became slaves because of baseless hate. And if we go back to the destruction of the temples that you mentioned, for what reason did they destroy? What did we ever do? Baseless hate. And we talk about the Holocaust. Why do the Nazis hate us? Why? There's no logic behind it to blame us so that we could be the scapegoats for all of their problems.
There's no logic. Indeed, a lot of the so-called logic, it's contradictory. It's like some people say the Jews are too religious. They're not religious enough.
Yeah.
They're too capitalistic. No, they're too communistic. Or, like you can't win. Like it doesn't make sense.
Right. And then, of course, the Spanish Inquisition, which created the phenomenon of Bnai Anusim. The one thing that really is logical, but miraculous at the same time. A miracle and logic can work together, and that is the return of the Bnai Anusim. And I want to thank you, Larry, because your music really, I think, is a way to accompany the harmony of the return of Bnai Anusim. Well, the only sad part is there are some Jewish people, too, who are not fully accepting of Bnai Anusim because they have been following Christianity, not by choice, by being forced to, for centuries. Instead, they should be applauding and welcoming them because they have returned. And October the 7th is also, what was the reason? You can't tell me it had to do with territory. To come into people's homes, to kill their babies, to kill elderly people, to take hostages, to rape women, to do all of this horror, baseless hate. The more that we learn of what Hamas did on that day, the more that we are realizing that this song, Baseless Hate, is so relevant. And I wish all of those protesters who are protesting on behalf of Hamas and calling, once again, baseless hate, Israel is performing genocide, or we're the victims of genocide? Israel, apartheid, when so many, we have Ethiopian Jews in Israel, black Jews in Israel, and we also have Arabs, not only working in Israel and having... In the Knesset.
Right.
In the Knesset. Well, let's have another song. I think you have another one there.
Sure. And this will be a more uplifting one, hopefully.
I hope so.
This kind of goes back to the theme of Light Sleet Home with the idea of a symbol waking up the soul, so to speak, except this time instead of the Shabbat candles, it's diet. I got to open for Jeannie Milgram when she spoke here in town, and she talked about her ancestors' recipes passed down through 15 generations, respecting Jewish dietary laws by finding these creative substitutes for pork and shellfish, and making chuletas out of French toast, but it looked like pork, and so on. And so this song is about the dietary laws, basically. If I were a fish, what kind would I be? Would scales guard my integrity? Would my fins help me flee? Would I scrounge from the bottom of the sea? If I were a beast, what kind would I be? With split hooves or claws for feet? Would I wolf down food rapidly or ruminate thoughtfully? If I were a bird, what kind would I be? A bird of prey like an eagle, or a gentle bird like a dove to rise above. Well, I am a human, I've come to see. What I take in becomes part of me. And I think of blood, I think of milk, I think of a mother and her ilk. So I'll face what's on my plate and think of the source, think of the fate. May awareness help me find how to be mindful, how to be kind. May awareness help me find how to be mindful and kind.
Wow, Larry, that's pretty powerful. I'm now going to invite you to come to my class that we have twice a month on Sundays. Many Bnai Anusim come to this class, which is for Hebrew school and it's for bar and bat mitzvah lessons. And I would like you in this song to teach the dietary laws. You have really put it all together. And you're right, this is one of the secrets again. Unfortunately, the one animal that becomes the symbol is the pig. Hanukkah, there was the pig's blood that the Syrian Greeks put in our temple, the forcing Jews to eat pig during the Inquisition. things like that. The Nazis calling us swineherd, the original term for secret Jews, Marranos. And the fact of the case is, one of the things that we've learned is 500 years later, the one thing crypto Jews come along and they tell their families, and we know Hispanic families love pork. Right? They love it. And they say, I'm allergic to it. I don't know why. It's just not, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's very, very interesting. So as we come to the conclusion of this wonderful session, I have to thank you again and again. Please, where can they reach you?
So LarryLesser.com is the source of all things Lesser. And the crypto-specific stuff is on a page called LarryLesser.com/crypto.
And at the same time, please visit the website of the Anusim Center of El Paso. Please come to our services that we have about twice a month right now. We'll be having them more frequently in Sunland Park, New Mexico. And follow all that we do on Facebook. We would love to have you become a member of the Anusim Center if you wish to. We don't charge any dues. All we ask you to do is make a donation and to follow us and to support us. So, Larry, once again, from the bottom of my heart, I really want to thank you. This has been really a pleasure. I hope many, many people listen to this podcast, because not only will they be entertained, they will be inspired, they will become more knowledgeable, and they will understand more about the secret Jews of the Southwest. Thank you so much.
Thank you.